Daniel Bryan and I have agreed to trade you, Sami Zayn, straight up for Eva Marie.
Yes! What? Yes!
What is up? GoodMicWork back at you with what will actually truly be a shorter than normal commentary this time. I know I say that every fucking time I do a commentary, and I wind up running my mouth for 45 minutes to an hour anyway. That will not be the case tonight. I actually have a very short window of time set aside to work on a commentary for this week because I'm very busy with work. It's the holidays. Things are a little bit nuts. Not to mention I'm right in the middle of putting together my big Q&A for the end of the year, and episode 400 is right on the horizon, which I have a special episode planned for as well. So I have got a lot on my YouTube plate right now, but we've got Roadblock coming up here in a couple of days, so I wanted to come up and predict that pay-per-view, also mention a few things about this past week's Monday Night Raw and SmackDown, and there's also about a half a dozen other news items that I need to get into as well. So let's start running through some stuff here. I'm going to backtrack a little bit and talk about SmackDown first. Since the Royal Rumble is SmackDown's next pay-per-view and that's a ways off, I figured we could afford to give SmackDown a little bit less attention this week and focus on Raw and some other things. Now, SmackDown was run on a tape delay on Tuesday. I was not home to watch the show live, and I actually still have not even seen the replay. I watched a handful of clips on YouTube, I read the results, and I have a pretty good understanding of what went down and what happened. So we'll just kind of blow through it right here. The big angle on SmackDown was that, number one, AJ Styles did not wind up defending his title against James Ellsworth as scheduled. Of course, AJ Styles is trying to recover from that ankle injury that he suffered at TLC. Last week, he was wearing a walking boot, and he said he would not be able to compete. This week, they went in a little bit different direction. Instead of blaming not having the match on AJ, they blamed it on Ellsworth. He showed up backstage with Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon and was coughing and sneezing hilariously. Jesus Christ. It was so funny watching Shane and Daniel Bryan's reaction to nasty, snotty James Ellsworth hacking all over his sleeve and wiping his nose and face on his shirt. It was fucking great. So Ellsworth has got a nasty cold, so he was unable to compete and challenge AJ Styles for the title. So what they wound up doing instead was having a number one contender match, a fatal four-way that was all set up on a Miz TV segment between Dolph Ziggler, Luke Harper, Dean Ambrose, and of course The Miz. And to make a long story short, the winner of this match turned out to be Dolph Ziggler. In the main event, he won the fatal four-way, defeating everybody. The Miz got back involved after he was eliminated, I believe, by Dean Ambrose with the Dirty Deeds. He came back out there and distracted both guys, eventually allowing Dolph Ziggler to nail Dean Ambrose, I believe, with a super kick and get the pin. And he's your number one contender, and he will be getting a title shot on December 27th. I'm glad that Ziggler won because my biggest fear after he lost the Intercontinental title to The Miz at TLC, what do they do with him from here? So at least he's getting another title shot. I don't really see Dolph Ziggler faring any better against AJ on the 27th than he did against Dean Ambrose in his world title feud earlier this year. But I still think it's nice that they gave him a title shot, even though I don't see any way in the world he could possibly win this belt. I really want to see AJ, like I've said time and time again, go into 2017, go into the Royal Rumble, and even go into WrestleMania as WWE Champion. So I have no interest in seeing those plans change. But the match, even though we can kind of figure out that Dolph probably won't win, the match should be fantastic, and I'm looking forward to the 27th. Might not be the only title match we have on that show either, because Alexa Bliss was forced to defend her women's title on SmackDown against Becky Lynch. She got herself counted out when she hurt her knee, and that's going to lead to something else. So these girls will either wrestle at the Royal Rumble, or most likely they will wrestle before that on SmackDown, and if they put a couple of title matches on that 27th show, it should be a lot of fun, so look for that. We have new contenders for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. They did a big battle royal with all of the teams, and Zack Ryder wound up winning the opportunity at the tag team titles against Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt. Again, I don't know when that match is going to take place. They might just stack up that show on the 27th. Maybe they'll put that match on there too. Much like the Dolph Ziggler match, I don't see any way in the world the fucking Mojo Bros, or whatever the fuck they're called, can win the tag team titles. I mean, if they do, I will shit at pineapple. Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt, I want to see them continue their tag team title run for as long as possible. Zack Ryder and Mojo Rawley, congratulations on the victory, but you guys are annoying as shit, and I don't want you coming anywhere near the tag team titles anytime soon. Other than that, we'll move on from SmackDown. The only other thing I have written down about the show is that Carmella did beat Natalya. I have not gone and taken a look at this match yet. I know Nikki Bella was involved on the outside of the ring. They're still doing a whole storyline of who attacked Nikki at the Survivor Series. Clearly, it's going to turn out not to be Natalya now after all. Other than Rikishi, I don't know who it could be. The only thing I can think of is potentially Mickie James, because I know that she is re-signed with the WWE and should be working the SmackDown brand. It could also be Eva Marie. I don't even know when her suspension is up. We'll talk about Eva Marie actually here in just a little bit, but I have no idea when her suspension is up. So if it's coming close to that time, she could wind up being the one that attacked Nikki. I don't think it would be Asuka or anything like that. I don't think it's time to bring her up. So I guess it's possible that it could be another NXT woman. I have no idea who that would be. Could also be a Raw woman. Maybe they're sending a Raw girl over to SmackDown for some reason. But right now, I think the odds-on favorites would have to be Eva Marie or Mickie James. I know I'm probably leaving out a ton of details on SmackDown, but like I said, I don't have a whole lot of time to get into this tonight. So we will now move on to Raw, this past Monday's Raw, which again, for 2 weeks in a row, was a pretty solid show. There was a couple of things on the show that was fantastic. I didn't really get a good enough look at SmackDown to compare them, so I don't want to unfairly say that Raw was the better show when I never really took the time to watch SmackDown straight through. So as far as picking a winner this week, I don't know. You guys can tell me who fucking won. I don't really care. Congratulations to New Day. They have officially beat Demolition's record. They are the longest running tag team champions in WWE history, and they did it in fucking style. It was advertised all week that they were going to have to defend the belts the night before they broke the record in a triple threat match against Cesaro and Sheamus and Gallows and Anderson, which they did. The show actually opened with that match, and the New Day cutting a promo, and, they're getting excited. They even had the big champagne and cereal party set up backstage in catering. They were going to have a big celebration after they successfully defended the titles one more time, and they did. They were able to escape yet again in typical New Day fashion, getting out of that match with Cesaro and Sheamus and Gallows and Anderson with the tag team titles. They go backstage to celebrate with bootios and champagne. Stephanie and Mick Foley are there to congratulate them, and they open up champagne and it gets sprayed all over Stephanie McMahon. She was soaked from head to toe in champagne, and that was just enough to set her off. She freaked out and stormed off in typical billionaire princess fashion. So New Day was a little bit worried that their big celebration was not going to be as fun now that they've pissed off the boss. And the New Day thought their night was over, but it wasn't. Kevin Owens is still trying to repair his relationship with Chris Jericho, ends up approaching Stephanie McMahon backstage to basically pitch the idea of him and Chris Jericho challenging the New Day for the tag team titles, since she's obviously so pissed at the New Day for covering her in champagne. So he says it's a win-win. You can get your revenge on the New Day, and I can repair my relationship with Chris, and he and I can win tag team championships. We can get friendship bracelets and matching tramp stamp tattoos, I guess. They end up having a Rollins Report segment with Seth Rollins, supposed to have Kevin Owens as his special guest, but instead of Owens coming out there, he stays up on the stage. He doesn't want to get anywhere near Seth Rollins. The whole segment wound up in a big brawl with Seth and Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns coming out there to make the save and all of that. And after that was over, Mick Foley said that since Stephanie was in the mood to make some matches tonight, and she's decided to give Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens the opportunity to win the tag team titles, he's going to give Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, they're going to team back up, and they are also going to get a shot. And the New Day is going to have to defend the belts in a second triple threat match, this time against Rollins and Reigns and Owens and Jericho. So that would be your main event. What I mentioned in my last commentary about last week's Raw that I liked so much is that it was fun. And that's what this week's Raw gave me, especially with everything going on with the New Day. And here they are in not one, but two triple threat matches, one of them being the main event. And it was a fun and exciting tag team match with the New Day escaping yet again. It was a pretty fun finishing sequence. You had like Seth Rollins hitting the pedigree on Jericho, but Big E pulled Rollins out of the ring and Xavier pinned Jericho for the win, and the New Day retains again, and then they're in the aisleway falling all over each other with the belts, narrowly escaping for the umpteenth time, and they have officially broken Demolition's record, and I'm happy for them. I got nothing against it. I don't know why fans are even mad about that. I'm the old school guy here. I'm the one that loves the old days, and even I'm not pissed about this. Demolition is one of my favorite WWE tag teams in history. Top 3 easily. But I still could not be happier for the New Day. I think they're a fun team. I think they've had a long, great, entertaining run. It hasn't been all perfect. Some fans have been tired of seeing them as champion. Well, now that they've broken the record, you're probably not going to have to wait too much longer. And as a matter of fact, they do have a title match booked for Roadblock that will be announced, I think, tomorrow after the Tribute to the Troops show. So congratulations again to the New Day. They were a big part of Monday Night Raw, and they broke that record in style. Do you realize they defeated 8 men to break Demolition's record? I mean, it wasn't given to them. They had to fucking earn it. The other big angle that took place on Monday Night Raw was so amazing, and it really... I mean, I went through so many different emotions and so many different thought process during this whole thing with Sami Zayn and Mick Foley and Braun Strowman. Basically, as we all know, Sami Zayn has been begging Mick Foley to let him take on Braun Strowman in a fight, and Mick Foley keeps denying his request, doesn't want Sami Zayn to get hurt, knows that if Zayn got into that ring with Braun Strowman, he would get absolutely fucking demolished, destroyed, and raped, and he just doesn't want to put Sami Zayn in that position, which is strange because he made Sami Zayn face Braun Strowman when he failed to bring home the Intercontinental title to Raw after TLC. Or after Survivor Series, I'm sorry. So Mick Foley, I don't know how he tries to be compassionate, but at the same time, he's a dick. It's Christmas time. It's his favorite time of year, and Mick Foley on TV is kind of an asshole. You guys have seen that, right? I'm not imagining this, am I? I think Mick Foley is actually playing the GM character a lot better than I thought. He gives tough love, he can be a badass, he can be sarcastic, he can still be the fun-loving Mick Foley at times as well, but it's not all fun and games. It's not all like it was back in 2001. You know, he had his office in the bathroom, and it was a lot of comedy skits with Kurt Angle and Edge and Christian, and, you know, he was just a fun-loving guy. Took very, very little seriously, except for maybe the Austin storyline when he got ran down. But this time around, Mick Foley is taking it a lot more seriously, so even though I think Mick Foley's character is being a little bit of a dick, I'm still much happier with this Mick Foley character as GM than I was with him back in the year 2000. But what was cool about this whole thing with Sami Zayn is that Strowman has a match first. He takes on Curtis Axel, beats the fuck out of him. Sami Zayn approaches Mick Foley backstage, asking him one more time for a match with Braun Strowman. Mick Foley refuses again. So Sami Zayn says, you know what? Fine. I don't want to be here then. If you're not going to grant me my request, then I don't want to wrestle for Raw. So Mick Foley's like, okay, fine. If that's the way you feel, I'll call Daniel Bryan right now, and I'll set up a trade, and we'll try to negotiate something, and we'll send you over to SmackDown. And the fans started popping. I started popping. I'm like, good, finally, you put Sami Zayn on SmackDown. I think he can be so much better over there. So then later on, Sami Zayn has a match with Jinder Mahal, which he wins. Mick Foley then comes down to the ring with a clipboard in his hand and says, hey, it's a done deal. I contacted Daniel Bryan, and it took a little while, but I was able to negotiate a trade to send you over to SmackDown for a talent of equal value. And that was the punchline right there, equal value. And the fans started cheering. I started cheering. I'm like, thank God Sami Zayn is going to go over to SmackDown. I cannot wait to see him there. And then things took a dramatic twist. Foley asks Sami, is he sure he wants to do this? And Sami Zayn says, that depends. Are you willing to give me this match with Braun Strowman? Give me the match with Braun, and I'll stay. And Mick Foley says, I'm not going to do that. I need to protect my investment on Raw, and I'm not going to let you fight this guy. So if you really want to be traded, it looks like you're headed over to SmackDown. But aren't you just a little bit curious who you are going to be traded for? Don't you want to know who the talent of equal value is? And then he pauses and he says, Eva Marie, which was the line of the night. I almost jumped out of my chair laughing so hard. That was fucking awesome. When he said Eva Marie, the crowd just shit their pants. I couldn't believe it. I thought it was the funniest damn thing I've ever heard. It was just what Sami Zayn needed to hear to set him off into a murderous rage. And he goes, are you fucking kidding me? I'm worth 100 Eva Maries. Cuts an extremely heated and believable and real promo. And I loved that because I haven't seen that out of Sami Zayn yet. I'm not saying the guy can't cut promos, but what we've seen from Sami on the mic hasn't been, you know, it feels like kind of inauthentic almost. I haven't really felt who Sami Zayn really is as a person. And when I saw him get in Mick Foley's face, it made me realize, wow, there actually is a human being in there that doesn't want to take any shit, and he's mad and he's angry and he wants his fucking opportunity. And I mean, he was even getting physical with Mick. I mean, he was pushing him a little bit, and Foley can get really intense in his promos too. And so when the two of them were going at it, I was like, this is gold. And Mick Foley says the whole thing was a ruse. I would never in a million years trade you over to SmackDown. You're one of the best wrestlers we have here. And what I wanted to do was kind of unleash this beast in you. And by him saying that he was going to trade him to SmackDown for Eva Marie, it was just the motivation Sami needed to give Mick Foley what he needed to see from Sami in order to finally say, okay, you're going to stick around on Raw, and yes, I will grant you a match with Braun Strowman. Now, there's still a twist, or there's still a stipulation in the match. It's not a full-on match, and I kind of like what they're doing here. figures, he's going to make it a 10-minute match only. He goes, if you can survive 10 minutes with Braun Strowman, you will prove to me that you are a big deal here on Monday Night Raw and that you are tough as nails. And it's cool because now they can have Sami Zayn survive but also not beat Braun Strowman, and it's kind of a win-win. Both guys save face, both guys might even get elevated a little bit. I don't know. I went from being thrilled and relieved that Sami Zayn was going to head over to SmackDown because I think he'll do much better there, to being happy that he stayed on Raw. I mean, I went through that complete 180 there in my feelings, and by the time the segment was over, I'm actually really happy that Sami Zayn is going to stick around on Raw. I loved what I saw between him and Mick Foley, and I'm very optimistic for the match with Braun Strowman at Roadblock, so it could be just what Sami Zayn needs, and who knows? Maybe they could still move him to SmackDown. Those were the major things that took place on Monday Night Raw. Everything kind of took a back seat to the New Day and Sami Zayn and Mick Foley. Even the big matches, the two big matches for Roadblock with Seth Rollins and Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns, even those took a little bit of a back seat. Now, they did close the show. After the New Day won that triple threat match and walked off with the belts, they did have Roman spear Owens to end the show. So Reigns got to stand tall to close out the show, standing over Kevin Owens' body, holding both of the title belts up, which I think is a good sign because I don't expect Roman Reigns to win the belts at Roadblock, so I'm actually happy that he was able to get the last word on Owens because it makes me feel a lot better about the main event come Sunday. We also had a promo with Rusev and Lana. They're bragging about what they did to Enzo last week. Cass came out to interrupt them, comes out to the stage, cuts a promo, says something about how they caught Enzo with his pants down last week, but his pants are on, but he wasn't wearing pants either. He's wearing fucking short tights. That's what he wrestles in. Anyway, him and Rusev wound up having a brawl. I guess they have a match also announced for Roadblock. I think it's going to be on the kickoff show, Cass versus Rusev, which we all saw that coming, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if Cass gets the victory with a little help from the returning Enzo. We had an awesome video package with Charlotte and Sasha. I'm really glad that they kept those girls off of TV and just built the match up with a video package, much like they did Goldberg and Brock Lesnar. They are kind of building this as the final match between the two. So I'll talk about my winner here when I mention the predictions, but I'm really happy that it does look like this feud will in fact be coming to an end. If it doesn't, I'm going to lose my fucking mind because the name of the fucking pay-per-view is End of the Line. Roadblock, End of the Line. So that should be the end of Charlotte and Sasha. And I actually think that it will be. It was a nice long feud that went through the duration of 2016. When you get into 2017, I think they both need to move on to other things. So I'm perfectly fine with them having this one final big blow-off match. It's an Iron Man match, 30 minutes, should be a lot of fun. And I'm in the minority. I'm one of the few people that actually likes the investment in Charlotte and Sasha. It's something that WWE has devoted and invested a lot of time in. The girls are developing a great rivalry, and I think when we look back 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we're going to look back fondly on this whole feud and angle between Charlotte and Sasha. I will promise you that. Other than that, we had a couple of cruiserweight matches. Daivari had a match, and Jack Gallagher came out and announced that he was going to interfere in his nice, polite way, which I thought was funny. Brian Kendrick beat TJ Perkins. We had a couple women's matches. Bayley beat Alicia. No Emma, by the way. Emmalina, which her promo vignette last week announced that she was going to debut on this week's Monday Night Raw, and they didn't do it. She didn't debut. What the fuck, WWE? You know, what's missing? What are you waiting for? It's like she's Glacier, for fuck's sake. I told you, she's going to come back as a dude, I'm telling you. Other than that, I don't have anything of note or importance written down for Monday Night Raw. That pretty much covers it there. Let's move on to the Roadblock predictions now. I'm going to blow through these quick, but we'll start right at the bottom with the kickoff match. I just talked about it a minute ago with Cass taking on Rusev. You got to go with Cass here. I would think that Enzo, like I said, is probably going to return from the injury and avenge the hotel beatdown and help Cass beat Rusev and get some revenge on him. Maybe even plant a kiss on Lana or something like that. Who the fuck knows? Main card, another match I just talked about, Sami Zayn versus Braun Strowman. It's a 10-minute match. If Sami Zayn is able to survive, then I guess he wins the match. So I am predicting Sami Zayn to last 10 minutes with Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman can still look like a beast. He can still destroy Sami Zayn, but maybe it's just the don't quit, never say die attitude that gets Sami through this. And Braun, even though he loses the match, he remains just as dangerous and scary as ever. That's what I'm hoping they are going to accomplish in this match. But I am picking Sami Zayn to last the 10 minutes. Cruiserweight title on the line, triple threat, Rich Swann defending against Brian Kendrick and TJ Perkins. I gotta go with Rich Swann. He just won the belt on the inaugural edition of 205 Live, and even though I expect the Cruiserweight title to change hands a little more frequently than some other belts, I don't expect Rich Swann to drop the belt at Roadblock, so I'm gonna pick him to retain there. The next match I'm going to announce does technically contain a spoiler. This commentary will probably be uploaded just about an hour or two before the Tribute to the Troops show on Wednesday night. So if you have not yet seen Tribute to the Troops, just go ahead and skip ahead about 30 seconds to a minute here and you will not be spoiled. For those of you who don't give a shit, you do know that Cesaro and Sheamus did win a number one contenders match on Tribute to the Troops, and they'll be taking on New Day at Roadblock. Now, this is going to be a weird one because New Day, now that they broke the record, I've been saying it earlier on that I expect them to drop the belt pretty much at any time. I think it would be cool if they went into 2017 as the champions. That way their title reign can span 3 different years. They won it in 2015, held it for all of 2016, and then entered 2017 as champs. Very similar to how CM Punk covered 3 years in his WWE title reign when he won it in 2011, held it all through 2012, and dropped it at the beginning of 2013 to The Rock. However, I am going to actually pick the New Day to drop the belts here to Cesaro and Sheamus. For one big reason, which I'll talk about in just a second, but I think now that New Day has broken the record and the name of this pay-per-view is End of the Line, I think this should be the end of the line for their title reign, and they need to put the belts on Cesaro and Sheamus. I like their team. I've been saying that a lot. Women's title on the line. Sasha Banks defending against a pay-per-view monster Charlotte. Iron Man match, 30 minutes. Most falls wins. I'm going to go with Sasha Banks. I think Charlotte's impressive pay-per-view run finally comes to an end here. I think Sasha is going to retain and put this feud to rest. It's supposed to be the final match between the two, and if Charlotte winds up winning the title again, since it's the final match between the two, that screws Sasha out of her rematch clause. So to me, the only logical thing to do here is to have Sasha Banks win. Now, didn't she lose the Iron Man match in NXT to Bayley? So it feels like they should give her a victory here. Plus, Charlotte has been so dominant on pay-per-view, it's not going to hurt her to finally lose one. I keep referencing the fact that it's the end of the year, and the name of the pay-per-view is End of the Line. So this should be the end of the line for Charlotte's winning streak on pay-per-views, and also the end of the line for the feud and the storyline and the angle and everything they've built up between these two girls. And I think the only way to truly accomplish that is to have Sasha Banks go over here. They can throw in all the crazy shit that they want. We've talked about Ric Flair interfering and actually helping Charlotte win the title back. But, if this feud is not going to go on any further, I don't want to see Charlotte cheat to win because that just fucks over Sasha. So I think it's going to be a great match. They could go with a tie or something like that. That's always very, very possible, which could help Charlotte save face as well since she's been so unstoppable on pay-per-views. Maybe technically she doesn't lose this one. However, I don't want to see that. I think the WWE has invested so much time in these girls. We need to have a clear-cut winner here. And I think Sasha should win this match. I think it should be tied going into the final seconds, like 2-2 or 3-3 or something like that. And then maybe finally Sasha taps out Charlotte with 1 second left on the clock, or pins her with 1 second left on the clock or something like that, and barely eke out a victory against her longtime rival. I think that could be a good way to book it. But at the end of the day, I think Sasha Banks needs to retain the title. Since the title has been being hot potato back and forth so much lately, I would like to see Sasha retain here and go into WrestleMania as the women's champion, maybe to take on Bayley or something like that. I don't know. But I think they need to let Sasha run with it for the beginning of 2017 since they let Charlotte have such a fun year with the belt last year. And of course, the main event, WWE Universal title, Kevin Owens defending against Roman Reigns. The reason I picked Cesaro and Sheamus in the tag team match is because that is the only title that I'm predicting to change at Roadblock. I predict Kevin Owens will retain the belt against Roman Reigns. I don't know how they're going to do it because we know how WWE likes to book Roman Reigns. He always has to save face and look strong and all that shit. So if Roman is going to come out of this pay-per-view without the belt, you got to think that he's going to get fucked over or screwed with or something like that to where Roman doesn't lose any credibility, I guess, after the match. But I really don't care what they do. I just want to see Kevin Owens hang on to the belt. No reason to put it on Roman Reigns at this point in time. Roman Reigns will win that title at some point, but he's not going to win it at Roadblock. You've almost forgotten that he's U.S. champ. He's not nearly as fun as the United States title holder as John Cena was when he had the belt. So I think Roman Reigns needs to get through this fucking match with Kevin Owens, lose, and move on, and finish out his U.S. title run that will probably last at least until WrestleMania. That could be a good place for Reigns to drop it. All in all, I see this pay-per-view in much the same way that I saw the TLC pay-per-view. It could potentially be a throwaway show. But like the SmackDown crew showed us, they can still make an insignificant pay-per-view extremely fun and very good. So I'm hoping the Raw brand can do the same thing. Oh my God, and I'm sorry, I completely lied to you. I totally forgot about Seth Rollins and Chris Jericho. I apologize. That's kind of an easy one to predict too. You got to think that Seth Rollins is going to pedigree and pin Chris Jericho. He's on a collision course with Triple H, most likely at WrestleMania, possibly the Royal Rumble, since it is in a 60,000-seat arena. But Seth Rollins losing to Chris Jericho isn't going to help his status with his feud with Triple H, so I don't see that happening, unless Kevin Owens comes out there and interferes. But he's got his hands full with a title match later that night, so I don't see that happening. So I definitely see Jericho losing and Owens winning is the most likely scenario for those two guys. So anyway, I'm sorry for not having the amount of matches correct there. I actually thought it was 6. It's 7 matches, including one on the pre-show. So I guess there is still time to add one more match, but probably not. That's probably going to be your full card there. So anyway, let me know what you think, what your predictions are. Do you agree with all of mine? Before I get out of here, I do have a handful of other news items I do want to briefly mention. Now, John Cena hosted Saturday Night Live this past Saturday. I don't know if any of you saw that. I've checked out most of the show. I've probably watched 75% of it, and it was great. I knew John Cena was going to perform well in that. You know, he always carries himself well. He handles himself in front of a crowd and on stage very well, obviously, because of his job. He's not an actor or anything to the level of The Rock or anything like that, but I think he's well-liked and handled the role really well, and he hosted the show brilliantly, and he did a good job. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if John Cena wound up coming back to Saturday Night Live at some point. So good for him. Love him or hate him, he is an excellent representation for the WWE when he goes off and does stuff. Think about 25 years ago. Could you see Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels or Razor Ramon hosting Saturday Night Live? Well, Razor actually might be pretty funny, but those guys didn't have that aura to them, you know, and having guys like John Cena and The Rock out there representing wrestling, I think, is an overall positive for the business. So nice job, Cena, on SNL. There was also no Raw pre-show this past week, and since I missed last week's Monday Night Raw as well, I don't think there was one for that show either. I guess they're kind of restructuring now that they've let go Jerry Lawler and Lita from the pre-show panel. I guess they're going to wind up bringing it back, probably with some younger faces. I just hope they keep Scott Stanford. That's all I care about. I think it's kind of funny that they feel the need to even revamp the pre-show to begin with. I don't think anybody watches those things anyway, but whatever. We haven't seen a Raw pre-show for a couple of weeks, and we might not see one until the end of the year. Maybe they're just going to wait till 2017 to relaunch the new look pre-show with some fresh faces and all of that. I also read that Chris Hero could potentially be returning to the WWE. There were some rumors going around about that. Good for him. He's been there once. He was in NXT. A lot of people liked him. He was even being considered for one of the Shield members at one time. Apparently, he's good friends with a lot of guys in the WWE and in the business. Has a good reputation, puts on good matches. I don't know why they released him to begin with, but I guess he's coming back in. Good for him. I wish him nothing but the best. Alberto Del Rio was involved in some sort of a backstage fight at an independent show that he wasn't even wrestling at. And apparently this was a fight that got so crazy that it spilled out into the crowd and some of the audience members fucking saw it. So I don't know what the hell is going on with Alberto Del Rio. I have always liked him. I was actually happy when he left the WWE because I didn't feel like they were really using him well. But then he got in that relationship with Paige. This is the second altercation that he's gotten in the past several weeks. Him and Paige were both suspended by the WWE for wellness policy violations. Paige was actually suspended twice. The relationship is kind of strange, and the two of them are just giving me a bad vibe. TMZ posted a video of them being interviewed in a locker room, too, just last night that I saw, where they were being asked about Linda McMahon being selected for a position with Donald Trump's administration, and they kind of gave some funny opinions on that. Just kind of an overall uncomfortable vibe I'm getting from the two of them. I don't know what's going on, but Del Rio, since he's left the WWE, that image that I always had of him in my mind of being kind of a stand-up, respectful guy is slowly going away because he's getting in fights and getting in trouble, and I don't know what the fuck's going on with Del Rio or Paige for that matter. And speaking of that Linda McMahon thing, a lot of you were sad that I didn't bring it up in my last commentary, but I didn't feel the need. I'm done talking about politics. I'm not surprised. We all know that the McMahons and the Trumps are in bed together, so the fact that Linda was selected for a position doesn't surprise me at all. if you ask me, when you see some of the things that Donald Trump has done so far and some of the people that he's selected to run certain agencies, he's hired a bunch of fuckfaces to do these jobs. Linda, as crazy as it sounds, is actually one of the more sane people that he has hired so far. So in my mind, I'm fine with it. She can't be any worse than anybody else he's picked. That's about it for me. I'm going to get out of here. I do want to thank everybody in my last video that have been giving my videos a little bit more engagement, a lot more likes, a lot more comments, a lot more shares. I've been asking for that lately because we all know that YouTube is going through a shit ton of problems, and I'm not really sure if any more engagement could even help the problem, but in my mind, it can't hurt. So to everybody that's been giving me extra comments and liking my videos and mentioning me on Twitter, there's been a lot of that happening in the last couple of weeks. I really appreciate it. Please keep it up. I will continue to retweet anybody that says they like my video or mentions me in any way or shares the video or whatnot. So anyway, I appreciate all the help you guys are attempting to give me. Not sure at the end of the day if it's even going to help, but regardless of that, I appreciate it immensely. So once I get this video uploaded, we'll have to see how many subscribers I lose. When I uploaded episode 394, by the next day I had lost about 20 subscribers. So YouTube just seems like it's completely fucked. So hopefully uploading this video will not harm my channel. How crazy does that sound? But anyway, I will be up here Sunday night after Roadblock for a reaction video. Look for that sometime before midnight or around midnight Pacific Standard Time. And I will catch you in a couple of days. So enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy Roadblock. Leave me all your comments below, and I will talk to you in a few days. Until next time, peace.